now tuned into the greatest.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The Run with Manny Wilson podcast.
The best sports podcast there is.
Yes, sir. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Run with me, Manny Wilson, all the way from Detroit to Chicago to your speakers and headphones. I appreciate you tuning in to the first interactive sports podcast, a community that makes sure your voice is heard. So if you hear something you agree with, you disagree with, you like, you dislike, go ahead, shoot me a call, 219-413-9405. And of course, we will play your take back on our next episode. Now, look, it was a lot going on this weekend with sports. You had the Usyk and Fury fight. That was great. The 2 Game 7s on Sunday. The Mavericks and the Thunder, man, that was a crazy game as well. It was a lot of different stuff going on, man. But we got to start off with the Minnesota Timberwolves because the Wolfpack, them boys balled out, man. This is the Minnesota Timberwolves' second conference finals appearance in franchise history. And the last time they've been to the Western Conference Finals was 20 years ago. That was in 2004, led by Kevin Garnett. This was a great game here, man, in Game 7. I couldn't have asked for a better game, man. It was said way beforehand. Anthony Edwards, he talked about it, and he said, best Game 7 in history. This was before the game he mentioned this. He said it's going to be the best Game 7 in history, and this is definitely one of them because this was great, man. And I got to start from a defensive perspective here because that's what we seen. The Denver Nuggets were up 20 points at one point, and they got walked down by the Minnesota Timberwolves. This was an old school type of walk down here. First off, this was an old school type of walk down. This wasn't no Golden State Warriors come back in 2 minutes by shooting a bunch of threes and now they're back in the game. Now, this was a walk down where you needed to play defense. You had to take it possession by possession. You had to use your defense to create easy offense. And that's exactly what the Minnesota Timberwolves did as they closed the gap. They were down 20. The third quarter was like that key piece, man. And it was crazy because the Wolves, they went on a 29-3 run and started the fourth quarter down 1. To start halftime, I think they were down 27 or 17 right at halftime. And then as soon as the game started, Jamal Murray hit another 3. It shook up the crowd. Everybody went ballistic. And, there you go. Minnesota Timberwolves was down 20. But they started walking them down, bro. They played defense. They really just locked in on defense, man, because the third quarter was completely different than anything we seen in that first half. Jamal Murray, he went off in the first half, 24 points in the first half, but then he was held to 11 points that second half. I think it was 5 points in the third quarter. Michael Porter Jr., bro, was just non-existent in the second half of this game. He only had 3 points the entire second half. It was really just Nikola Jokic. He was the main one working. And he was the main problem that the Timberwolves were struggling with because no matter what they threw at this man, he continued to score and carry his team, even though they got hawked down. The Wolves at one point had to triple team Nikola Jokic just to even kind of stay in the game and keep him from scoring. But that wasn't even enough. And it's only so much Nikola Jokic can do when nobody else is making shots on his team. They shot 5 for 19 in the third quarter from the field and then 1 for 10 from the 3-point line in the third quarter. Come on, man. It was the perfect opportunity for the Timberwolves to come back and strike as they did. And it started with good defense leading to easy offense. And everybody knows the elephant in the room here is that Anthony Edwards, he had himself a rough game, especially starting out. Denver, they brought out some double teams. They just brought a lot of focus on Anthony Edwards, kind of making sure that he wasn't going to be the key piece and the key reason why the Timberwolves were going to win this game, which was a great game plan. However, I don't think the Denver Nuggets counted on the fact that everybody else was going to step up the way they did because Karl Anthony Towns, he was huge. He was huge in this game. He put on a show. He really kept his team afloat in and out of these runs that they had to come back into the game. And Anthony Edwards, even though he wasn't really making shots and he was getting double teamed and stuff, the thing I loved is that he stayed aggressive. He kept shooting the ball. Like, he created opportunities for others, and most of all, the man played defense when he wasn't getting it going on the offensive end. That was probably the biggest thing that helped the Minnesota Timberwolves come back and end up winning, because even though he couldn't score, he could still find people open looks. He was still getting Jaden McDaniels open looks, getting Karl Anthony Towns open looks. Like, it was a huge help. And man, eventually it worked out in the final moments of the game, because the people who were carrying McDaniels and Karl Anthony Towns, and even Mike Conley, he did his thing too. It worked out, because by the time the game got to the final moments, Anthony Edwards finally was able to make the shot and get the ball in the hoop. So it was dope, man. And, Timberwolves don't win this game without Karl Anthony Towns. He was guarding Jokic the whole time, turned around and played the offensive end as well. So it was dope, man. And it's a reason that the Timberwolves had that number one defense. They really, really showed it tonight why they had that number one defense. But this was a high emotional game, man. So, the post game interviews was crazy. the people at the press, man, it was crazy. So look, we're gonna start here. Here's Nuggets coach Mike Malone after losing game 7 via NBA.
How hard is it just to absorb a loss like this after going ahead by 20?
Next question, man. The season's over. That's what's hard. Fuck being up 20. The season's over. You don't understand that. The season's over. It's hard. Stupid ass questions.
And here's Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns after the big win via NBA.
This is for either one of you guys. And usually in NBA history, it says you have to lose and lose big before you win. What is it about this team that says
we lost last year?
Yeah, but that's different. You have to lose at a bigger stage. Usually, teams usually.
It's the playoffs. We lost last year.
We lost the last 2 years. Shit.
God damn. How much more we got to lose?
Yeah, how much you want us to lose?
Been losing for 20 years.
I mean, that's just the truth, dog.
God damn.
All right, man. Look, got a quick side note here, because as you know, it was a couple of other things that happened. So just some random thoughts that's been going on my mind. The Oklahoma City, they fell short to the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks won that series in 6 games. That was an amazing final game there. And the big controversy here was, the foul call at the end on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I thought it was a foul call. I mean, they got it right. It was a bold way to end the game, but ultimately, that just takes discipline, man. That takes discipline. You can't make those type of fouls, and you can't close out shots that way that he did, because you look there, it was contact. It was clear that it was a foul call, and I'm one who always believes, I don't want the ref to get involved in the final moments. I don't want to see the referee calling stuff. Let these guys play. Let the game be determined by who's on the floor and the skill that they had playing against each other. That's always, my flow when I'm talking about crucial moments of the game. But that was the right call, unfortunately. It was the right call. Another thing too, man, the big fight between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, that was dope too. I did catch a little bit of it, but it threw me off because the fight came on earlier than, most fights. Most fights come on at way later in the day, but this one was pretty early, and I was trying to watch the OKC game, so it threw me off. But above all, I thought it was a great fight, man. This was dope. Shout out to both of these guys for making this happen. Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury. He got the brakes beat off of him at one point. I think it was the 6th round, and I thought he was going to go down. I was hoping for it, because usually we don't see Tyson Fury go down. And correction, I think I might have said Usyk, but we seen Usyk. He was giving Fury the business in the 6th round, and it was close for Fury to go down, but he didn't. And, they continued to fight. They continued to battle it out. But I would love to see a part 2 of this fight, man. I think that could be super duper cool. But ultimately, I'm glad I was right with my prediction that Alexander Usyk was going to win above all. So, look, man, hey, go ahead, shoot us a quick call, 219-413-9405 if you got a quick take, some questions, or you just want to go ahead and share your thoughts about one of the games that happened. Maybe you watched Anthony Edwards freeze up in the first half, and you seen him get to work the second half. Maybe you was a Denver Nuggets fan, and you just was hoping they pulled it off and they folded like that. So, who knows, man? Anyway, shoot us a call, 219-413-9405. And, of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. It's halftime, man, so you already know we got some news for the run coming up, and stay tuned. The New York Knicks, oh yeah, they got sent home. It's been a sad day in New York. But we'll touch on all of that in just a second. It's halftime. We'll be right back. Oh, man, I got this tea. I've been needing it. It's been a long weekend. It was filled with all good stuff, of course. I hope your weekend was good, too. But no, it was filled with all good stuff, man. I caught up on some of the reading. I was telling y'all about this book called Bad Monkeys. It's very interesting. But it's about this lady. It's a fictional book, but it's about this lady. She's in a psych ward, and she's like talking to a psychiatrist, and he's trying to figure out if, she's actually crazy about something or if she's like telling the truth, because she got sent to jail or prison for killing somebody. But her thing is like, I just killed the wrong person. So I'm not necessarily crazy. I just messed up my job that I was supposed to do, because she works for some undercover agency. It's crazy, man. I could get all into it and explain even more, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to just leave it like that. It's good. So she's explaining to this guy certain things that she went through with this agency and all of that. And the psychiatrist is just trying to figure out if she's telling the truth or lying about this. And I really don't know if she's doing either, because some of this stuff sounds so far off the wall, but also it's adding up very clear. So for example, she'll be like, this guy visited me when I was in the hospital. He proposed this, and then he said, as long as I meet him here, then whatever, this man will be taken care of and he'll be dead. So whatever, that happens. And then the psychiatrist, he'll look at it and he'll be like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but looking at the records, nobody visited you when you were in the hospital, and the man you said was going to be dead is still alive. So like, what's really going on? And, are you making this up? So it's crazy. So I spent a lot of time reading that book. I tried to listen to the Gunna album. I couldn't do it, man. I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm just not able to rock with the style sometimes, bro. Like, I don't be needing stuff that aggressive all the time, like, I just got to be in a certain mood for it. But I definitely been rocking with the Gambino album, Childish Gambino. I think his album is dope, man. I've been playing it kind of nonstop since last time I talked about it, but it's dope, man. It's very different. It's very unique. And, I think I love the sounds on it. So definitely check that out, the Childish Gambino. I think it's called At a Vista. Yeah, At a Vista is what it is. So, but anyway, I forgot. Y'all got me off topic. Look, we're here to talk about sports. I need to get my last sip before we go back in. And we're here to talk about sports. I said I was going to give you some news and stuff like that. So, all right, let's do it. All right, let's get into it, man. News for the run. Today, we just got the playoff picture and the things that happened over the weekend. So, as I mentioned, the New York Knicks, they fell short to the Indiana Pacers in Game 7. They lost 130-109. And the Minnesota Timberwolves, they beat the Denver Nuggets 98-90 in Game 7. And then also, too, you cannot forget about the Dallas Mavericks and Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City Thunder had a chance to send it to 7 games, but they fell short in a close game situation to the Dallas Mavericks, which means the Dallas Mavericks won that game 117-116. And yeah, you can bet on these next rounds of the conference finals being elite. So the matchups you will have is the Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Indiana Pacers versus the Boston Celtics. We'll cover more on these matchups next or later on this week. We don't want to talk about it now because we got to let it simmer down just a little bit. And the series that really stood out to me was the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers here, because as we all know, Pacers won Game 7 in a dominant fashion. And you may have watched the game, you may not have watched the game, but either way, bro, the Pacers, they were on fire in this game. And it was literally nothing anybody could do about it. They literally had the highest shooting percentage in NBA playoff history. NBA playoff history. Literally everything was falling. Everything was dropping. Watching this game, it was just one of them times, bro. It was one of them games where everything drops. and like you go to the gym, you just feeling good. You can throw up stuff off one leg, trying shit you ain't never tried before, and it's just gonna drop. That's just the type of game that it was for the Indiana Pacers. So a slept on part of this game, outside of the immaculate shooting that they had this game, is the defense. Man, they play really well on the defensive end, and I thought this helped them escape away from the New York Knicks in this game. This helped create that separation in this game because they didn't really allow easy buckets, and all the shots that the Knicks threw up were highly contested. So it's only so much you can do where a team is playing great defense on you, and then also they're not missing any of the shots they throw up. Like, come on, man. That's that. Like, don't let nobody tell you anything different of, oh, the Knicks should have done this. They should have done that. They should have went this area. They should have tried to double this guy, trap this guy. None of that stuff really matters because everybody was making shots. On the Indiana Pacers, everybody was making these shots. You had so many different people coming off the bench, lighting you up, making these shots and just hitting clutch shots for the stretch of the game. I'll put it that way. It necessarily wasn't like, oh, this guy's giving you 30, this guy's giving you 40, this guy's giving you that, he's giving you this. It was just more so the shots that they made came at the perfect time. Literally, the perfect time. Like, even with Halliburton, the shots he made came at the perfect time. He wasn't super aggressive all throughout the game. He started the game off pretty aggressive, but the shots he made for the most part just came at a great time where he was making, you know, a momentum type of shot. And it was huge. But we did learn a few things from the New York Knicks here. Even though they lost, we definitely learned some things. So although guys can play 48 minutes, it is not sustainable to do that. It's not sustainable to play your guys 48 minutes in every single game of the series like the New York Knicks did, because they had 5 guys injured all through the playoffs and couldn't make it to game 7 of the second round because they were playing these big minutes game after game and night after night. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, and Bogdanovic. Like, come on, man. They gave them guys huge minutes, and there's a clear reason of why most teams don't do that in the playoffs, because the playoff journey is just completely different than the regular season. But that's ultimately why I'm happy, too, that the Knicks lost, because I wouldn't want to see the New York Knicks go play a Boston Celtics team at not even a quarter of their strength. Like, what type of game is that? I'd much rather watch an Indiana Pacers team who is at least healthy. So I'm cool with that. I'm happy the Knicks won, or I'm happy the Knicks lost. I'm sorry. The Pacers and the Celtics is a much better matchup, but that's slightly different. That's a slightly different conversation that I'm ready to have later on in the week. The thing here that we're focusing on is, like, you don't want to risk your guys, because even if they go on further and further in the playoffs, it's only going to get worse. The injuries aren't going to get better. They're not going to heal by playing more basketball and playing through the injuries. So it's not wise to risk your guys in this playoff journey. They could have prevented this way early on. And this is why people have a solid bench, because you need guys to come in off the bench and play, so your stars aren't getting these huge minutes night after night. So for those Knicks fans out there, nah, don't use this as an excuse now that the series is over, because it's never been an excuse in any other playoff run. It wasn't an excuse last year. It wasn't an excuse the year before that. It wasn't an excuse the year before that. I don't want to hear it. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because you prep for the playoffs. There's a reason teams used to give load management for their star players. And there's a reason that guys try to make sure they're on a minute restriction and stuff like that, so they can be durable through the season. So, you know, hey, man, it's cool for a March Madness series and a March Madness type of run, but this is not that. All playoffs, I've been telling you, the Knicks play like a March Madness team. They scrappy. They play defense. They work hard. They hit big shots. But it done caught up to them, because the March Madness team done ran out of gas. But anyway, look, man, I'm going to leave y'all with this here. That's all I got for you today, first off. And I appreciate you, of course, if you've been hanging with me to this point. But you got one more thing to listen to. I'm going to leave you on a positive note. I hope you had a great weekend and all of that. But I'm going to just go off a wing. I'm not gonna go too deep because it's whatever. It ain't that serious. I'm gonna just say this, man. Be honest with yourself and make sure you constantly evaluate the characteristics that you have around you. So be honest with yourself and evaluate the characteristics that you have around you, because if you're trying to work on yourself, you're trying to be better, and someone who's not really up to that same agenda, if they recognize that, they'll respect it. They'll be like, cool, do your thing. They gonna slowly distance themselves and let you, do work on you. And some people, they might do the opposite. They might look at you like, oh, you're trying to be funny or whatever the case is. But above all, that's why you got to be honest with yourself and like evaluate the characteristics around you. Because if you feel that within, then you got to trust your own intuition. But anyway, look, man, accept that advice any way that you will. Other than that, man, that's all I got for y'all. I would love to hear from you about the games and stuff like that, especially if you did watch it or you was following it at all. Go ahead, shoot us a call, 219-413-9405. And of course, we'll play your take back on our next episode. But until then, man, look, we'll catch up with you later on this week. You can watch the playoffs. They're coming on later on this week, too, so it's going to be perfect timing. You'll hear more predictions and all of that stuff, too. But until then, we'll be back later on this week, and so on and so on and so on.